Hey, this is Cold Turkey, and welcome to part 7 of my 9-part commentary series on old school Doctor Who. And today we're going to be talking about the infamous 6th Doctor. Why do I say infamous? Well, this is when the show started to fall apart. This is when things went from bad to worse. There were some massive issues. So just to break it down, when the 6th Doctor started happening, they brought in a new actor, Colin Baker, and personally, I don't blame really anything of what happened with the Sixth Doctor on Colin Baker. I just want to come out and say that because I'm going to be a little rough on this whole issue. Colin Baker is a good guy. As an actor who portrayed the Doctor, he wanted to be the guy who broke Tom Baker's record. He wanted to be that involved, and to this day, he is still very much involved in Doctor Who, and I'll get into that later. I don't think in any way, shape, or form this is Colin Baker's fault. He's a good actor. The problem is when you give a good actor a bad role and you don't really give them a choice and say, well, you've got to play this role or you're fired, what are you going to do? If you give somebody a piece of shit, they can only do so much, and it's going to suck either way. So Colin Baker, I got nothing against that guy, but the Sixth Doctor was horrible. And let me just get into this. So when the Sixth Doctor came aboard, first of all, got to talk about the outfit. The clothes they gave him were atrocious. They were horrible looking. The coat was ugly, the pants were ugly, the vest was ugly, looked like a retard. The personality that they gave the Sixth Doctor was an even worse decision. They purposely made him unlikable. Stop and think about that for a second. The protagonist of a series, by definition, is going to be an unlikable, loudmouth, pushy retard. What do you think's going to happen? If by definition your main character is unlikable, nobody's going to like him. That shouldn't be a surprise. Why? Because you're trying to make him unlikable. That is a horrible decision. You should never do that in a show like Doctor Who, in my opinion at least, because that's going to make nobody like him, because you're making him unlikable. They really gave him such a horrible personality as the Sixth Doctor. The scripts were bad, the story was bad, the dialogue was bad, the special effects were getting worse. Everything was falling apart with the Sixth Doctor. The show collapsed. So the Sixth Doctor had seasons 21, 22, and 23, but we got to kind of talk about that. When I say season 21, you say, well, hold on, I thought the Fifth Doctor had season 21. Well, the Sixth Doctor had the last story of the 21st season, and they decided to do that so that the audience could understand who the Sixth Doctor was. So he had one story in season 21, and then in season 22, which was January 1985 to March 1985, he had a whole season. Then, after that, there was a huge gap, like I think an 18-month gap. It was bad. Nobody was tuning in. Ratings were getting even more just low. They were horrible, as low as 4 million. People hated this Doctor. So we had season 22, we had a really big, long hiatus, and then it came back for season 23, September 1986 to December 1986, and that was pretty much all she wrote. After season 23, they fired Colin Baker. They didn't even ask him back for a regeneration scene. That's how bad it was, and Colin Baker definitely has a lot of things to say about that. But the Sixth Doctor was not around that long. He technically had 2 1/3, 2 1/4 seasons. So when you talk about the Sixth Doctor, not only was it the breaking point of Doctor Who, where the show collapsed, was out for over a year, not many people were watching it, it was horrible, the scripts were horrible, the dialogue was bad, the costumes were bad, everything was bad. Not only that, but on top of that, you don't even have that many. So when we look at the Sixth Doctor, he's sort of a very blustery, loudmouth, pushy, and as I said earlier, by definition, an unlikable character. So when we see him interact with aliens, like the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Master or the Ronnie or anything like that, it's hard to root for him because he's just such a jerk. Now later on, especially towards the end of season 22, I think they kind of mellowed that out a little bit, where he became a lot more likable overall. And I'm not sure how that happened, if that just progressed naturally, or the writers realized they were doing something stupid, or the directors realized, or Colin Baker was able to leverage a little bit of his acting skills finally to say, hey guys, let's make this character a little bit better overall. Another big problem with the Sixth Doctor, remember in the Fifth Doctor I was talking about annoying companions? Well, the Sixth Doctor has Perry, and she is so annoying. Now don't get me wrong, she's a beautiful woman, but her character is so annoying. Her voice is annoying. The lines of dialogue they give her are annoying. She has this screechy, squealy, kind of high-pitched voice, and she just says stupid things 9 times out of 10. And then when you combine that with this blustery, sort of mean-spirited Doctor, it really creates scenes that you don't want to watch. When you watch interaction between the Sixth Doctor and his companion Perry, who was the Sixth Doctor's companion for almost the entirety of his stint, it isn't pleasant to watch, the interaction. And you think that's bad. Well, no. He gets an even worse companion towards the end, Mel. Oh, my word. Mel is atrocious. She's there at the end of the Sixth Doctor and for the first season of the Seventh Doctor. But Mel is, in a lot of ways, I think, the epitome of an annoying female Doctor Who companion. And what makes it even worse, Perry is pretty hot. Shows off some cleavage, she wears really short skirts and short shorts, so they're trying to make up for it. With Mel, you don't even have that. Mel is more annoying, not a beautiful woman, at least in my opinion. She's not ugly, she's just kind of Jane Plain, so she doesn't really show anything off, so you don't even get that. So the companions are bad, story bad, everything's bad. Now, I know it sounds like I'm really hating on the Sixth Doctor, but believe it or not, I don't really hate the Sixth Doctor that much. It's just when you look at it objectively, you're forced to concede that there was a reason Doctor Who was plummeting to its doom. And the Sixth Doctor, if you look at what was going on at the time, I don't know exactly what happened. Like I said, I was just a little kid back in the 80s. But I think somebody tried to screw over Doctor Who on purpose. Like, there must have been somebody at the BBC who hated Doctor Who, and I've heard things kind of alongside that. I can't remember the exact name of some of the executive directors or executives of the BBC at the time, that they had to have disliked Doctor Who as a show, because they were consistently making decisions to put nails in the coffin, as it were. So the Sixth Doctor, pretty bad overall, and because of that, and because of the fact that there were very, very few episodes or stories, I can only really recommend 2 stories. First one I'm going to recommend is Attack of the Cybermen. By Sixth Doctor standards, this is pretty decent. It's interesting how they try to link the Cybermen back to more of their origins that were discussed in the First Doctor and the Second Doctor, with their home planet. You see the Cyber Controller again, just how the Sixth Doctor interacts, sort of a decision to make involving other people that he deals with and how they are becoming Cybermen. What do you do in that situation where you have somebody that you knew who gets captured by the Cybermen and then gets processed into a Cyberman? What do you do? So it's kind of interesting that they try to explore that. Another interesting aspect about this episode is the Doctor, for a brief stint, gets the chameleon circuit of the TARDIS to actually work again for a very small period of time, which means that the TARDIS does its best to disguise itself when it materializes into new places and isn't just a blue police box, which is interesting to see that. The other story that I'm going to recommend is The Two Doctors, which is kind of interesting because it's the Second Doctor and the Sixth Doctor, and I think they actually have fairly decent chemistry. Not only that, but you see the reintroduction of Jamie McCrimmon, oi, as a companion, and he did a pretty good job overall. You see the Centaurans, they're trying to make a time machine, and it's a real big cluster, and I think it works really, really well. It's ironic that out of the 2 episodes I recommend, the one I do end up recommending the most is one that doesn't even have that much of the Sixth Doctor in it. So I feel kind of bad for recommending it. But it's a great story, and I think the Two Doctors works really well. So I'm going to recommend those 2 stories. And as I said earlier, it sounds like I'm being really hard on the Sixth Doctor, like I hate the Sixth Doctor and I despise it, but that's not true. I think overall, given the circumstances, the Sixth Doctor is bad, but I don't actually hate it, if that makes any sense. I recognize it for what it is. I can see the faults, I can see the issues, I can see the problems, but I've got no beef against Colin Baker as an actor, as I'd stated earlier. He did the best with what he was given. So that's the Sixth Doctor. Maybe give it a watch if you want. Probably want to stay away from it if you have never watched any old school Doctor Who, and try to focus more on the, Third Doctor, Fourth Doctor kind of era before you leap into the Sixth Doctor stuff. This is Cold Turkey. Thanks for watching.